Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after market close on Thursday, July 22nd. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not trading or investment advice in any way, shape, or form, so do not take them as such. Do your own due diligence, put the work in for yourself, and make your own decisions based on your own ideas and conclusions. All right, so SoFi. Now, I took a lot of I don't want to say heat because it wasn't really hot in the kitchen or anything, but there was there were a few folks that came in pretty, with fervent pressure yesterday and said, "Oh, this is a really bearish video." Basically, because I had said, "Hey, I'm really bullish on SoFi. I have a $50 price target in a year, which is more than triple the price of the stock at that time," and yet I was saying, "Hey." It ran up so much today, nearly a 10% green day. I said, just be cautious. Don't get overly exuberant. Don't get overly excited because we could see a pullback tomorrow, and I don't want to see people sort of get stuck in just this kind of like, oh my God, it's kicking off. The rockets are launching and the moon is on its way and all this stuff. And so today we saw a bit of what I was trying to just kind of caution folks against, which was, a little over 3% of yesterday's gains coming back off of it. Obviously, that's also on the back of this very painful sell-off that we've been caught in. We've seen just, 6 green days since June 21st, and it is July 22nd. 6 green days in that period, and just 2 of them being kind of, nice green days. The other just kind of being like, okay. So, this is just to say, I know folks want to interpret everything I say with some amount of hyperbole or what have you. Hopefully you know by now, this I don't think is even close to the most hyperbolic channel out there. This, I think, is pretty reasonable and in the center, trying to actually present real things and take them with a grain of salt as we go along. But I will just say it again. I'm bullish on SoFi. I cover it. I started covering it, way back in the IPOE days, like early IPOE days, because I thought it was interesting. It had a lot of interesting factors. It was a SPAC. It was a Chamath SPAC. It had this crazy short interest to the float, and it was this really interesting company with this really bold, grand vision, which to me are always the most interesting ones. And so the reason I've continued to stay with it, and the reason I continue to be interested in it, is not just because of those things, but because I think that the company, if they can execute on their vision, which that to me is the question. It's not, did the price go up 10% today? Did it go down 5% today? To me, the question is, can it execute on these huge, huge goals and this grand vision that it set out for itself to revolutionize this space and create this one-stop shop? That is a huge undertaking. It's a huge thing to purport to be working on and to say that you can accomplish. And so to me, it's the execution of that is in question more than anything. And the degree to which they can do that, I think that those price targets that I put in my price targets video, which you should go back and look at if you haven't yet, I think that those are very much in play. They are enthusiastic price targets. They aren't, I don't think that they are undercutting the potential in any way. If anything, they're sort of like a stretch goal. But that's how interesting I think SoFi is. So that's just to set the table and just to clear that up, for anyone who's wondering. Now, let's look at the day. So volume today, 18.62 million, dragging up a little bit over the average volume. This again in play because yesterday we were at over 27.5 million. So today we're about 10 million off of that. And what I have been saying was I really am paying most close attention at the moment to volume coming in. And we saw the sell volume pick up today to sort of a degree that we have not seen it in the last week or so. It had been dying off, and now today it kind of came back a little bit. So I want to keep a very, very close eye on that. Now, the other thing, I have a call out to SoFi Investor Relations, wanting them to just clarify when lockup expiration is. I put out a video a few days ago on my take on when it is or when it was and sort of what the documents say and what the volume and what the data on the chart seems to say. So I'm kind of done debating that at the moment. If there's more info that comes in, I'll certainly share it. But I put everything that I have in there. Folks are having a vigorous debate in the comments. I, think you should go ahead and do that and sort of try to use that as a way to come to your own conclusions. Bottom line for me is it's really unfortunate that whoever creates and then distributes those documents doesn't do a more obvious job of clarifying when some of these dates are. Now, I know that they can't necessarily know when a stock will reach a certain price threshold within a 20, for 20 trading days within a 30 trading day period. I know that, but they could at least say the earliest point, the earliest date, since they know when the close of the previous business was, when the merger happened, when they know that what that date is, they could certainly say, so the earliest that this lockup could expire is on this date, since we know when the merger is happening. And for it to hit that date, these criteria would have to be met. That, to me, is the crux of the problem that we're in right now. It's just nobody can, certain groups of people have vastly different interpretations on what the earliest potential date is, right? And like I said to you yesterday, I have various insiders writing to me saying like, hey, I'm an investor, hey, I'm an employee, so on and so forth, and here's when my shares became available. And the folks that have reached out to me have said at the end of June. Now, somebody said yesterday they have a friend that works at SoFi, and theirs are still locked up. Now, I don't know why that is. There's a lot of different reasons why that could be. They may not have vested their options grant yet, right? They probably a 1-year cliff at which they vest 25% of the grant that they received when they were hired at SoFi. So I asked that person if they could have their friend email me directly and sort of try to figure out what their situation is, because it was different from what I had been hearing from the investor and from the other employee who was apparently an early employee. So these people tell me. I don't know them, so I can't 100% vouch for them, but this is just what I'm being told. So all of that info is there. I said I didn't want to rehash it, and here I am kind of rehashing it. But that's just to say, go look through all those videos and try to come to your own conclusion. But the most unfortunate thing to me is just that it is confusing when it could be made crystal clear. Now, I'm also going to email investor relations at SoFi. I left them a voicemail. I haven't heard back yet, but I would like them to just chime in and clarify. Also continuing to tweet at Chamath and friends to see if they would be willing or interested to clarify any info, but that is where it is at the moment. So I'm making my decisions in the meantime based on the data that's available and the charts as they evolve over the days. So let's zoom in today to just unpack today, because earlier in the day today I tweeted out at 10:45 in the morning. So I just a few minutes before this. It obviously took me a few minutes to execute my trade and then come type this tweet. But a few minutes before this, I grabbed this call option, which expires tomorrow, $16 call option, thinking that that double bounce that we saw, 1580, could be a good opportunity for double bottom. Let me sort of walk through what I was looking at and why I took that position, and I'll sort of talk about the good and the bad reasons why I took that position. So I was basically looking at this area here, and also knowing that a lot of times, the trading starts to kind of chill a little bit after the first hour of trading. So this was after the first hour of trading. I saw this double bottom that had happened here on the minute chart, and I was looking at the indicators as well. I was looking at the MACD. So at this point, I see the MACD coming down, and I see it sort of closing in. And now, obviously, after this, it popped back out, but then it started to come back in, strongly again. And so this is when I thought, okay, got the double bottom here. We had the MACD crossing over. It's a riskier position than I would like, but to me, it makes sense because I'm okay taking the risk, because, to be honest, this call option expires tomorrow, so it's really low cost. So it's not a huge risk factor. And I was traveling today, like you probably know, and I was in the car, and I was like, let me just get a trade out there. It'll be something interesting to do while I'm riding in the car. Do not drive and trade. I was not driving and trading. I was in the passenger seats, just trying to, find something to do for 4 hours. And so this kept me somewhat entertained as I did that. But anyway, so I was looking at the MACD factor. You see, that's at 10:42 a.m. And again, I got this tweet out at 10:53 or 10:45. Sorry, so that's right about when I would have taken it. It's that bullish crossover. Now, the interesting thing here, looking at the MACD, you see how it kept making these higher lows, even though the price came down to 1571. That, to me, as I was watching, I was like, oh, this is really interesting divergence here between the MACD and the price action. I think like we're going to turn this around. And we saw that, here as we had a nice swing up, and then it pulled back, and I thought, oh man, was that all that it was? But no. And then we spent the rest of the day basically pulling ourselves back up, and then this sort of like almost, now if this were steeper, if this were something other than like the minute chart, this could start to represent something closer to kind of potentially a bull flag coming in, especially again if these repetitive bottoms continue to hold. You see this area here where it ended the day. I'm not so concerned about the after hours, but where it ended the day here, dipping down into this area and then holding it, that is obviously just under where this support area hits here in the mid to late afternoon, and then where it had used it as sort of a stabilization / bounce zone toward the midday here as it sort of peaked out after this nice run up here. That was the first area that it tested and it held. So to me, I think it still is in pretty good shape. I didn't close that position, so it's going to expire tomorrow. So I'll decide if I'm going to close it tomorrow during the day or, what I will do. But we do see still, again, it's on the 1 minute, so take it for what it's worth, but not a ton of bearish momentum coming in, even though, the price, to me, the price is coming down more than the bearish momentum on the MACD is allowing for. And so that to me says we're likely to see some sort of divergence there. And so I'm hoping that is a bullish divergence and that we're getting more buying pressure coming in, although the price is not yet reflecting that, and that the MACD is sort of like leading the indication on that. That's the risk I'm taking, basically. That's my hypothesis, and either that will not play out and I'll lose, that'll expire worthless, or it'll play out well and I'll make a little bit of money. It won't be anything portfolio or life changing. Now, the other thing that I was looking at that same time frame, just to I don't know if this is interesting to folks, but this is just sort of like give some insight into like the moment to moments as I was seeing it. So again, when I would have taken that position, right about here-ish, somewhere in here, I saw the RSI, as I've been talking, wanted to see what it's been doing at the midline, and I saw it make another attempt here at the midline. See it pop up there from 43 to 49 after it had already sort of made a lower high at 46 there, pulled back a little bit to 43, and then I saw it jump up to 49 and hold, or look like it was going to hold. And I thought, okay, another factor, another thing to consider, the MACD was sort of like interesting enough to me. And like I said, this wasn't a huge risk of a position, but to me, I thought, okay, it's worth sort of jumping in and seeing if the RSI can continue to hold in the midline. I think it'll have a chance to push toward overbought. And obviously that is what we saw as it held here. And obviously it stumbled a little bit through there, came close to oversold, but quickly recovered to the midline and then came up here and got into the mid 60s, which with all the selling off that has happened feels respectable. And then this nice push up that I sort of thought was coming based again on the MACD info that I just went over, this got it pushed up into 72 to true overbought territory. So that to me was sort of a good proof of concept. Now I'm hoping that this carries through to tomorrow. Again, I didn't close it out. Saw this action happening, and I thought, okay, there's still hopefully something happening there. And then on the MACD side of things, like I said, it still looks to me like there was undue sort of drop in price versus the area on the histogram indicating the bearish momentum. And also, MACD is still sitting underneath the baseline at this point, like at close of day. So to me, that leaves it a bunch of opportunity to run up. If it will, that's the question. But if it wants to, there's a lot of room to go. Now, this was another factor as I was looking at the MAs were really sort of providing a lot of supports, and it was trending along nicely with it. Now, I was looking at shorter time frames on these. We can flip on like these puppies here. This is more in line of what I was looking at on my phone. And you see here, it's a little tougher to see than I would like, but you see here, around the time when I took the position, the price action, there was another bullish crossover as the MA5 was crossing over the 12. And then it also proceeded to cross over the 20. So even though it then pulled back, that to me was another strong indication. It's just building a case for the trade, and not necessarily wanting to build a case for a bullish trade, but just sort of taking the indications as they come. And it just happened to be that I thought that there was the opportunity to go bullish at that moment. So take that for what you will, but that's kind of what I saw in the price action today. Now, to me, if we want to pull it back out, I don't sort of see anything that changes anything from what we've been talking about on this chart. I still think, we had this purple bounce zone here. 1791 is the next most dangerous area if SoFi can get itself up there. And, it'll be interesting to see if it can sort of overcome this selling pressure that it's seen there lately, and more selling pressure coming in early and earlier in recent past. Now, on the data side of things, I was looking to see if sort of shorts started to come in at all given the big day yesterday. And actually, per Ortex, didn't. Still pulled back a little bit. The shorts stood on their position, clocking just over 1% of the free float as short interest. So, nothing spectacularly changing there. The other thing that I do feel yesterday kind of proved to me was there is obviously, retail is still clocking interest in SoFi. Now today it died down quite a bit, bumped ourselves back down to the 6th spot here, which is where we saw ourselves, I think, on Tuesday. And Clove took the number 1 spot. I think that had already happened by this morning. But to me, it sort of showed that it gave me more, again, this is just a hypothesis, but it gave me more of an indication that potentially if earnings do come out relatively strong, that there's enough eyeballs still on SoFi, and sort of with the bullish hope that SoFi has a case to be made, to the long side of things, that if earnings come in strong, I think that folks are kind of sitting there waiting for the next great catalyst to come in and be like, see, I told you this is a good stock. There's reason that this is undervalued right now, and so on and so forth. Of course, there's a bunch of folks saying that it's overvalued, so they'll make their case in the comments. I have no doubt. But to me, it was a good indication just that I think SoFi is still on folks' radar. And so that volume, which I've been desperately wanting to see, that's, had been crushing us here, but now hoping that there's buy volume to counteract that in the long run, I do think folks are waiting and watching. And if we can get a really positive catalyst, like a really strong earnings report in August, then that might be a really nice opportunity for it to gain some momentum and start to work itself towards something that looks more like a true trend reversal, as opposed to just an anomalous green day in a vast sea of red. All right, well, I hope your trading week is going well, and we'll close it off strong tomorrow. I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.